I look at my life like theater. And so, I started a theater production called Caroline or Change. And that let me realize that even though you're saying the same words each day, you could say them brand new. And you could deliver them differently. So even if I am saying the Lord's Prayer, I use that prayer now as a mantra.
Between the Grooves is hosted by James Curtis, music director and morning man in the Greater Toronto Area on Joy Radio, and Aisha Woods, Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, and musician. Together, they talk with artists and industry insiders to discover our connection between music and faith. You can connect with us on Facebook or Twitter at Between Grooves. Now, here's James and Aisha.
Well, hello, and welcome back to episode 259 of Between the Grooves with myself and James Curtis. What's happening, my friend?
Not much. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know what? I had a one-night getaway, and I so needed it. You ever need to just get away from everything, just shut down after a really busy season?
Was this a one-night getaway for just you or you and your husband?
Me and my hubby.
Oh, okay. I was going to, because there's a difference between the two, right?
Yeah, that's true.
My kids are late teens, early 20s, and even now my wife still feels guilty about getting away. And
really?
So I'm all for it. Get away for a night or two, whereas my wife is very hesitant still. And part of it too is our kids are old enough that they are so they can look after themselves,
right?
And they don't spend as much time with the parents because they can fend for themselves and they lead their own lives and stuff. And so I guess for my wife, and to me to a certain extent as well, it's like let's maximize any time that we have with them. So if we do have time, I'd be like, do we get away together or do we somehow include the kids, right?
Right.
And so we should be doing it more where we get away, and we will be doing that more and more. But a lot of times it's like family getaways. But sometimes if I have a day off and my kids are working and my wife is working, I sometimes feel guilty about having nothing planned for the day. Right? It's like,
really?
Yeah, I kind of feel like
that's because you're an overachiever. That's what that is.
I don't know if I'm an overachiever or I just pretend to be. I don't know. So today's guest, this is someone who we have been. Well, I was in contact with their people back in January, I guess. Sometimes it takes a while before these things line up, and she's made headlines since then. She is known as one of the 25 greatest Canadian singers ever. She's known as Canada's Queen of R&B Soul. She's a platinum-selling recording artist. She's got a lot of stuff that she's done. And obviously one of the reasons why we wanted to chat with her. And she's a Christian, although not necessarily focusing her music in the CCM world or in Christian music.
Right.
Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you need to be doing stuff in the Christian community, because then we'd be kind of this little closed little circle
Preaching
of people.
To the choir.
Yeah. But yeah, she's a multiple Juno Award recipient. That, of course, the Juno Awards in Canada is what the Grammys are to the U.S. And she's had many, many singles reaching the top 10 in pop, R&B, the dance music charts as well. Who are we talking about?
Miss Jully Black.
Jully Black. She's done more than just music, too. She's been on The Amazing Race in Canada. She's been a mentor on Canadian Idol, so like American Idol, except the Canadian version. And she recently made headlines at the NBA All-Star Game back in February, I guess. She was performing the Canadian national anthem, and she changed the lyrics from Our Home and Native Land to Our Home on Native Land. And of course, some people upset, little controversy. She made headlines because of it, and a lot of people, voicing their thoughts on it. And then she was recently presented an eagle feather and wrapped with a blanket at a blanketing ceremony by the Assembly of First Nations in Ottawa. And so I thought, the fact
That's
that
interesting.
she's made headlines with all of this, but I thought, if we chat with her, I don't really want to talk about that because it's almost been over talked about already.
Sure.
And as it turns out, it's funny how our schedules, we try to line these things up. And right before we had the opportunity to chat with Jully, you got called into a meeting.
I did.
And so these are the sort of things.
How crazy is that?
We could have rescheduled, but I thought to myself, a lot of times, we try to reschedule these things and it'll be...
And you will not get that opportunity.
You won't get the opportunity or it'll be months later and by that time, you've moved on or they've moved on and stuff.
Sure.
So this is a scenario where, you get the opportunity, you don't turn down that opportunity, you just move forward.
No.
So you didn't participate in this. I feel bad because I would have loved to get your perspective. Sorry, it's okay. It's okay. Don't cry. But I got to chat with Jully Black, and we're going to share that with you now. First of all, just to set the stage, I grew up in subsidized housing when I was a kid. From my standpoint, I didn't let that stop me from achieving what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I'm still growing up. The fact that you were in the Jane and Finch area, that's got a reputation, not always the greatest reputation, but did you find for yourself that you were kind of obligated to prove yourself because of that?
No, I didn't find I had to prove myself to anybody but me.
Right.
And my Lord and my family. So, it's so interesting. I was raised in a way where we weren't defined by people's ignorance, what the news thought, or what, there's all types of narratives that were happening since before I was even born.
Right.
About the Jane Finch community. And really, the entire community isn't subsidized housing. There's lots of homeowners.
Yep, I've got a brother-in-law that lives there. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that it's amazing to be able to teach and to broaden people's horizon and scope around what would be deemed as, at risk or an area that is tough.
Yeah. I suppose you wouldn't necessarily know it. Like the fact that I grew up in subsidized housing when I was a child, it never dawned on me that that was an issue anyways. I didn't think anything of it until years later. I'm thinking, wow, look what I've been able to achieve, So I suppose maybe it was more me just proving to myself and maybe to my family, I suppose, even though I've got a brother who's a lead pastor in a church. I've got another brother who's a teacher and his wife is a teacher in Toronto. Yeah, I suppose you wouldn't necessarily have to prove it to others more so than yourself.
Yeah, and just to jump in, there's a lot of people who live in the suburbs in 10,000 square feet home that are doing things that, I know people in my neighborhood growing up wouldn't even think of doing, wouldn't even fathom doing. There's so many people who are privileged, who are struggling in other areas, right? So it's just time to really kind of do away with that narrative and that conversation around the area that you're raised in, you grow up in, the four walls, the school, the church, the this, the that. It's like, that's all, that to me, that's all a distraction.
Right.
And we really need to focus on the content of our character and who we are and whose we are. Yeah.
As far as the church is concerned, of course, you grew up in the church as well. Was there any influence from the church in your future career, musically speaking?
100%. The whole being rooted in gospel music, my family discovered my voice when I was 6 years old, that I could sing well. And knowing that I was given this heavenly instrument to be of service. And so, beyond the genre of gospel music and R&B and blues kind of being, rooted gospel, the R&B and soul and blues and jazz and all of it being rooted in gospel, I recognized that there was a call on my life and that it was important for me to, at an early age, like I could remember being in elementary school, being the voice of the voiceless, even back then, or being a bridge, where people were so fascinated by my voice. Like, wow, you have such a talent, not bringing dolls to talent shows, but I'd always sing instead of bringing a Cabbage Patch or a Barbie.
Nice.
So yeah, like true story. So it's definitely influenced that I was going to continue to use my voice. Now it's a matter of what side of my voice do I use, my speaking voice or my singing voice, because I have many sides.
You have your hands in a whole bunch of stuff. You're a Christian, but you're not necessarily considered or recognized as a Christian artist, right? There is that distinction.
Yeah, well, it makes me wonder, do we recognize Christian football players other than,
Right.
Sierra's husband there, Russell Wilson. Like, I think that's the whole thing we need to do away with too. I'm doing kingdom business. I'm a believer in the principles of Jesus Christ. Yes, Christ wasn't a Christian. We're just using his name.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think that this is such a great opportunity. I often say, I'm in the world, but I'm not of it. And I could preach circles around some of the best preachers. And I'm saying that with the most love and confidence and courage, because really, fundamentally, I think it's important for all believers to get to know the Lord on their own and get to build their faith. My mom taught me you're going to build your faith through experiences. That's when you're going to believe who God is. That's when you're going to believe that, the power of Jesus and the power of life and death lie in the tongue. So I'm excited to be a bit radical and being this kingdom representative more so than walk around and say I'm a Christian.
And I suppose not necessarily get into that box of CCM music either, because that's a lot of times that's what people consider. If you're a Christian, then typically you would be doing contemporary Christian type style of music versus you've kind of gone the R&B, a little bit of pop, your song Time for Jesus, we've been playing that.
Thank you.
So But it's interesting because I'm not sure how much exposure did that song get on mainstream radio. Did it get any or?
Oh yeah, it got as much as it was supposed to get. Radio's different these days, so
yeah,
it's every person's game. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like recognizing now that Maverick City or back in the day Kirk Franklin, even not just back in the day, even now Mary, there's so many different artists now. Lecrae that's able to kind of cross boundaries, and so for me, I have songs that should be on, I guess, CCM radio, but because to your point, it's not. We didn't service it as Christian. It hasn't been played. So I have a song called "I Traveled," that's a beautiful song that's really talking about so many things that are aligned with the faith. And so I have a song called "Glass Ceiling." And running, there's so many songs that could be played over and over again on CCM. And so I recognize that if I do want to dwell in that space, that eventually I will do a gospel album, or it's in the works. We've been talking about it. And there are some songs that are already written. I'll see what happens.
Your album, 3 Rocks and a Slingshot, was that kind of your way of introducing some of the Christian element to your music? Not
at all. It was just a way of introducing to the world my belief around, David and Goliath. The metaphor around this little boy that could take down this giant with 3 rocks and a slingshot. And I wanted people to know that you could take whatever put labels on those 3 rocks, and whatever it is, you need more faith, you need more love, you need more courage, you need the 9 fruits: the love, the joy, the peace, the patience, the kindness, the goodness, the gentleness, the faithfulness, and the self-control. Like whatever you need to put in that slingshot, just load it up. I mean, I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman, and so systemically there's some Goliaths, not just as a woman, but as a Black woman, a Canadian woman. There's all these layers, but it's the main thing for me is to lead with love and grace, and to understand that we're here to serve. You also strike me as a workaholic. Would that be accurate? Because I am. Like, I'm always thinking about work. I'm always thinking about the next project. I'm always thinking about stuff that I've got on the go. I'm somewhat of a perfectionist, drives my wife nuts, But given your career, given everything that you've accomplished, I don't know the average person could do that, Well, yeah, I'm above average and I'm extraordinary. So, God called us to be extraordinary. So at the end of the day, I'm a purposeaholic. You can put that one in the book. Sure. I am a purposeaholic. There's a hashtag for you. Right. I think that people are focusing on what they're seeing me do, whatever they catch on a feed or news feed or et cetera, not realizing that you could only do one thing at a time well. So all the things that people see me do, I'm doing it one at a time. Okay. It just happens to be released at the same time, or it may look like I'm doing a bunch of things at once, but really, we can only do one thing at a time well. So And that's why I do all the things I do well, because I focus on each of them.
And these days, what is a typical day for you?
First, it starts with my devotion, and not because I'm on a faith-based show. Like, that's fundamental. And then I go into, I work all the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. I run businesses, so meeting with my team, meeting with our community members of 100 Strong and Sexy. And depends on what my press day looks like. Every day is kind of different, because it is different. I look at my life like theater. And so, I started a theater production called Caroline or Change. And that let me realize that even though you're saying the same words each day, it's you could say them brand new, and you could deliver them differently. So even if I am saying the Lord's Prayer, I use that prayer now as a mantra. When I ask God, thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, I start to say, thy kingdom come on earth in my finances as it is in heaven. Thy kingdom come on earth in my health as it is in heaven. Thy kingdom come on earth in my family. You're right, on earth as it is in heaven. And so therefore, for me, I've now decided to start to pull heaven down more so than wait till we get to the great by and by. It is our job now as believers to realize and to show the world that God's children and his representatives are supposed to have dominion and reign and be successful. And so what does that look like? And so that's my job, to go through this, navigate this space and say, hey, I am successful so I could be a bigger giver. I'm determined and inspired to achieve and to earn and to have more so I could do more. And
so with you mentioned the various companies that you've got going, how do you stay organized and stay focused so that you spend enough time on each one of them and, get through your day?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have an amazing team, that's for sure. And all of the businesses that I've been blessed to birth through serious heavenly downloads are an extension of what I already do, who I already am in life. So fitness, I work out every single day. I eat well every single day. As far as like step aerobics or my speaking, acting, mental health space, that's every day of my life. So it's not a matter of trying to like balance, but more so find harmony.
Right.
And that's, I use that term now. People are using, work-life balance. And it didn't really resonate with me, work-life balance. I started to say work-life harmony. Because when you put three notes together, especially as a musician, you understand that when that harmony comes, when those notes come together and there's that blend, it's the most beautiful sound. And everybody, whether you're musical or not, they're able to receive such a beautiful feeling when harmonies happen. So that's my prayer. And it's a practice. I think that there's this whole notion of perfection and competition, and especially with social media, et cetera, comparison. I know each day my eyes wake up, my eyes pop open, I'm grateful. And to know that I have an opportunity to be better and to ask for forgiveness and grace and to repent. That's what resets my day every day.
I really like your description of work-life harmony. That's a great way of looking at it. And it puts things more in perspective than just saying work-life balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You imagine someone hopping on, when I hear balance, I imagine somebody hopping on one foot, just trying to balance, trying to hold your balance.
Yeah, just trying to stay in the game, just to hopefully I make it, absolutely.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
No, I like that. So what do you do in your downtime? Do you have downtime? And if so, what are you doing? Like, are you blocking time away? Obviously, if you love what you do, it's not work. Like I work in radio. I'm the morning show host, do this show, the podcast. I'm also the music director. So I enjoy that. I could do it all day, but I force myself not to because I need some downtime, whether it's just watching online videos or whatever else just to relax or whatever, or going out, having coffee with a friend or something like that. What is it like for you?
It's important that we have kind of what I would deem as mindless behaviors, like there's being mindful and, kind of like mind empty. And so, I have two very, very close friends, Astra Lovelace and Jennifer Seif, and we together, we make sure every month we book a hotel stay, even if it's a staycation. Every single month we get together. And then for me, as far as my alone time, it's like I like to watch TV and do kind of just regular things like that. But ultimately, if people follow me on Instagram, I love to eat, and I often show what I eat.
Right, yeah.
I eat a lot of things because I can afford to, and the way I train and find harmony in my healthy living. But I will tell you in full transparency, I'm truly, Jully, I'm as honest as it comes. That's a challenge. Like, I was supposed to have a week off. I was in Jamaica last week, and it was supposed to be a disconnect, unplugged to connect type thing, to connect with myself and God.
Yep.
And but there was a week I started going through a bit of a reorg with one of my businesses, and it couldn't wait until this week. So I had my laptop, and I was like, okay, well, at least I'm working from paradise, and
if you got to work, may as well do it from paradise. Absolutely.
Well, there you go. Right there you go. But it's something that I've definitely been. I know I need to do better in, and I'm working on it.
Do you turn off the email?
I barely check email. That's actually a problem. I'm more so WhatsApp. I have a team. I have an EA and management, etc.
Right.
So it's not the email part. It's more so like WhatsApp,
right?
WhatsApp and Instagram. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I find I've got to turn that stuff off for myself anyways, especially on a weekend weekends probably for the most part. And then when I do take a week off, I need to be able to turn that stuff off. But then I feel, near the end of the vacation, I'm feeling kind of, a little stressed thinking all that stuff's piling up, all the messages are piling up, all the important stuff or potentially important stuff that I might miss or that I might have to deal with when I get back. And so, don't tell my boss this, but usually the third last day of my vacation, I'm checking my work email just in case there's anything urgent I need to deal with. So
I know. I will say, though, that being on The Amazing Race Canada last year and being away from all devices for 5 weeks, it was the most amazing feeling, and I tried to sustain it. And of course, here I am back online fully. But when I do come offline, I come offline for like 4 months at a time. Like,
that's awesome.
A joke. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do it 4 months.
I disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done. I could have kept going. It was great. It was like fasting.
Yeah.
It is fasting. That was a form of a fast that I chose. I'm like, I'm going to fast from social media. And for me, it was the year after the January after my mom had passed away, and I just needed to just be alone and figure out what's next for me. So it was very helpful.
Right. But my family's done cruises in the past, and a lot of times, or in the past anyways, with a cruise, you have to pay extra to get the Wi-Fi on the ship. And I didn't pay for the Wi-Fi, not because I was being cheap, but I didn't want to be online. I didn't want to be enjoying a beautiful country or an island or even enjoying the amenities on the ship and be looking at my phone, looking at email or Facebook or Instagram or whatever else, I didn't want to do that because I paid all this money to go on this cruise. I want to enjoy the cruise. Drove my kids nuts, though. They were just dying for the Wi-Fi, and I'm thinking, look, enjoy what you have here. I remember going on vacation in Miami, and they'd be, my wife and I would go for a walk out for coffee somewhere just to enjoy the beautiful weather in Miami, and they're stuck back at the hotel, They're back at the hotel scrolling through their social media feed. I'm thinking, why? You're staying inside the hotel when we can enjoy this weather, enjoy the ocean, enjoy the pool, But anyways, to each their own. They'll learn one of these days,
Exactly.
Yeah. Before we go, because I know you're tight for time, if there's one piece of advice that you can give to artists, new or old, what would it be?
It would be to start to understand or try to understand your why, like why you want to be in the music business, and then anchor that why to your daily habits. And I know I say daily habits, some people would think it's just like, let me practice my guitar, let me do my voice lessons, or let me, learn new songs. What I'm talking about, full 360 habits. Does the way I eat help me, towards my why? Is my conversations with my family, my peer group, the courses that I'm taking, like that why? I had a clear why and this is a nice full circle moment when we started this interview, but I'm having a Holy Spirit moment right now. And it's like, I knew that I wanted after my parents divorced, I knew I wanted to have my mom not live in subsidized housing anymore. So I had a clear why of like, okay, I know I could, with my success, I'll be able to get us out of subsidized housing. And even though it was like 19 years later, like 10, 15 years later, probably, I was 14 when I had that aha moment. I was able to buy my mom a condo and buy myself a house. So, in Canada, one of the toughest markets for a Black artist. So that would be one thing. Just have a why. And also, if your why is you want to make $1 million, don't let anyone distract you or deter you. Like, that's your why.
Yeah.
Own it. Hold on to it.
One of my things, and I'll just throw this in there, one of my things, especially when I got married, is there was two things. First of all, I wanted to be debt-free. I wanted a house. And when you buy a house or you buy any kind of real estate, they tell you, well, you're going to have a 20-year mortgage, and a lot of times you're going to upgrade, and it'll, add another 5 years or whatever else to your mortgage and whatnot. And when we bought our house, the deal was, well, if you pay every other week, you can pay off your mortgage in 15 years versus 20 years. And I said to my wife, we're going to do better than that. So we paid off our house in 12 years.
Hello.
Because we wanted to. Now,
right.
And I'll be honest, one of the reasons why we wanted to do that, or why I wanted to do that, is because I would say about, and it's been paid off for 10 years now, but I would say 5 years into our marriage, my wife, and when we started having kids, my wife said to me, you really need to get a hobby. And so I said to myself, well, I convinced her to use my income tax money, or our income tax money, to buy some recording equipment, because my thought was, when we had our daughter, she's got an amazing voice. I thought that was back in the YouTube era when everybody's, recording their kids singing and stuff like that. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to record something, and then she can lip sync it, and I can throw it onto YouTube and make her look and sound amazing and everything else. That was kind of my goal. I never got to that goal. What it eventually led to was me getting back into radio. I'd been in radio years ago, but I couldn't afford it. And there's not a lot of money working in radio, quite frankly. And so I said to my wife, the only way we can afford for me to get back into radio, or to work in radio again, is for us to pay off the house, pay off the mortgage, be debt-free, so that I can afford to make less money. And that's exactly what we did.
Yes, I love that story.
So true story, and I'm doing what I love now, and now it's not like work. And now, in another 10, 15, or however many years, it'll be, quote unquote, time to retire. I'm thinking to myself, I might do it for fun.
Of course. There's no retirement in purpose and in passion. If it's your passion, let me tell you something. You go ahead and do it.
My dentist is probably in his 70s, and he's not retired. He doesn't believe in retirement. He says, I don't read anywhere in the Bible where it says you have to retire.
Hello. Thank you very much. I concur.
Yeah.
I concur.
You know what, James? That was a really great conversation. Although it was a little short, it was concise, and it was to the point. And to tell you the truth, I feel empowered. I really do. I feel empowered. And if you want to learn more about Jully, you can visit her website at jullyblack.ca. And it's 2 L's in her name, Jully, black.ca.
And that is it. We are out of time for this week's episode of Between the Grooves.
And don't forget to follow us on IG at Between Grooves Pod. Follow us, and subscribe.
Thanks for listening to Faith Strong Today's Between the Grooves podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider sharing it with your friends, rating our podcast, or giving us some love on your socials to your amazing friends and followers will only help us reach more people. We'd also love to hear from you and share your feedback in an upcoming episode. Send your video or written message to Aisha and James on Facebook and Twitter at Between Grooves, or email us anytime, hello@faithstrongtoday.com.